Good morning, Matthew Wright, founder and CEO of Specright. I want to thank everybody for joining. We've got a great audience today, and really a pretty basic presentation in terms of what is Specright. It's a good introductory overview of what we're doing and the forward direction we're taking. And Adam Fugate and Adam Armstrong, two leaders of the business, will be directing the presentation today, and I'll be available at the end as questions come in. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. And Adam Fugate, you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure. Thanks, everyone, for attending. As I already stated, my name is Adam Fugate. I run the onboarding team here, so I work with all of our customers and prospects to get them onto the system and help them manage their data and documents and business objectives, and then we turn Specright into what they need to manage all the things they need to around specification management, BOMs, and things like that. So my group is intimately familiar, and myself, with the product. So we have a lot of knowledge, and more than happy to share that.
Thanks, Adam. And as the name of the webinar said, this is going to tell you about what is Specright. We'll spend about 5 minutes on some slides, background on the company and the product, and then we'll jump into a demo for about 15 to 20 minutes and then open up for questions. If you have any questions as we're going along, please type them in the questions bar on the right-hand panel. So diving into it, the genesis of Specright came about when our founder, Matthew, saw that the products and goods that everybody consumes and purchases were packed in over 200+ million specifications worldwide. And almost every company was inefficiently managing those with spreadsheets, PDFs, and outdated systems. Over the last few years, we've definitely seen that to be true when it comes to storing the data and documents related to the structure, artwork, logistics, and other details of a specification, especially a packaging item. There wasn't a great system for that. And this has especially become a problem with the SKU proliferation of increased variety, private label growth, retailer influence, and international expansion that many of you on the phone have seen with your companies. So that's where we get to Specright. Specright is a cloud-based software platform built for the users and purchasers of packaging. When coming up with the product, Matthew gathered a team that included packaging suppliers, purchasers, academics with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and then technology experts, specifically one of the co-founders of Salesforce.com. And that leads us into the product itself. As I said before, Specright's cloud-based. It's built upon the Salesforce App Cloud, which gives us international infrastructure already in place. It enables the ability to integrate with other software platforms, such as your ERP or PLM or MRP system, especially with Oracle, SAP, Infor, and others. It also has the highest level of security because they're government institutions and banks that run off of Salesforce themselves. The product is built around the need for packaging specifications, but you can store any type of spec in the database and then use Specright to share and analyze and audit those specifications. So our customers do store everything from ingredients and raw materials up to finished goods. Adam, I'll pass it over to you to briefly explain kind of what the onboarding and implementation team does.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. So like I said, my team, everyone is typically, let's say, not lacking for data and documents, or typically drowning in it. The problem is that it's not in one place, and it's not in usable formats, and it's not consistent, and on and on and on. So what my team does is we help you get all that data documentation together and put it, so I would say, normalize it and put it into Specright and normalize templates with normalized data, consistent workflows and processes so that we can, meet your overall objectives and you can get information really, really quickly. So once it's, we work with you, we put all these things in place. Now you can answer questions incredibly quick, whether it's about a specific packaging or a specific ingredient or a specific product. Everything's at your fingertips, and you can answer questions in a minute or 2 or 3 versus days or weeks, depending on some situation. So that's what my team does. We do the legwork because we know everyone's busy. So we're there to make sure that you get from point A to point B.
Perfect. And that leads me into a handful of our sample customers. We work with companies across all industries that purchase and procure and use packaging. We also work with a number of packaging companies themselves. As you can see, a number of large food and beverage, consumer goods, and manufacturing logos here. With that, I'm going to jump over to the demo, and we'll go through a high level today of kind of the key functions of Specright. Certainly would be happy to do a more deep dive demo with any of you afterwards. You can always follow up with either Adam Fugate or I directly, or email us at hello@specright.com. So with that, we're now looking at the Specright homepage. One of the key abilities of Specright is the ability to easily find information. So typically with antiquated systems or having PDFs and other documents on your own computer or a shared drive, it's difficult to find information. With Specright, you can easily search any keyword and it'll find all components, finished goods or bill of materials, files, or other records that have that keyword in it. There's also a couple quick search functions. So if you have hundreds or thousands of specifications and you don't know an item number, but you may know that it's an approved spec, particularly you're looking for a flexible item, maybe it's a pouch, then you can quickly query that and then drill into the specification itself. As we go through the sample specifications, one thing to note is that we have about 30 different pre-built templates for different packaging types. So this is a flexible specification, so the attributes below in the structure, print, and other areas relate specifically to a flexible spec. I'll jump to a corrugated specification in a second to show you the difference. But first, I'm going to show the final search feature, which we've called the like item finder. And this is a way to find similar existing specifications. So if you have a new product development request and maybe you know that you have a corrugated shipper already that will fit that new item, but you don't know exactly what it is, you can once again search within specific parameters, including a given tolerance, and find an existing specification that meets those needs. You can then click into the particular spec that you want, get the details that you need, or you can clone that item to create a new specification and go from there. Adam, anything you'd like to add on that process or the like item finder?
No, I think you covered it. I mean, I guess the only thing I would add is that, depending on the situation, not every spec is created equal, so we can generally modify it. If you're looking for something outside of typical length, width, and depth, there's other options there we can explore.
It's a great point. And the system is built to be flexible. So I'll actually show quickly here how you can edit the layout of this corrugated specification. We've certainly found that every company treats specs a little bit differently, and there's likely going to be different data points that you want to capture, maybe slightly different nomenclature you use. So we do start you off with a standardized template, but if you want to add and remove any sections, you'll have a customer success representative that can help you with this, or we'll train you to do it yourself. But it's meant to be easy, flexible, and you don't have to have somebody that knows how to code or program to change any items. I'm going to run through this corrugated specification, and Adam, definitely feel free to chime in at any point in time. But we've built out the specification record to include as much potential information that you may need as possible. So there's a section for the structural details, print information, purchasing and usage, which also could be integrated and transferred directly from your ERP system. Then you can store any file type. So you can store any AI artwork files or CAD drawings, and then any image, PDF, or Word document will give you a thumbnail preview. You can click in to see the full file and then download it as needed. So it's meant to be that all the pertinent information as well as the documents are attached here. Going down to the related lists below, this ancillary information may be applicable to you, it may not. You can kind of pick and choose which of these sections you want, but everything from having one structural specification tied to multiple prints, or one master specification tied to multiple different supplier versions of that specification. If you source a given item from multiple suppliers, you can trigger workflows within the Specright system via manual triggers, such as clicking new change request to send an email alert or assign a task to a certain person, or you can trigger that workflow from any activity. So if a particular field is changed, or if you complete a quality record and it fails, you can have that automatically send an email or create a task within Specright for the applicable persons. Adam, anything you'd like to add on the quality and change request areas?
I mean, not too much. I mean, we do have, this is also, the beauty of Specright, it's very customizable. And for some of our clients, if it's applicable, if you already have a SCAR process or something like that in place, we can usually, it's just not a problem for us to take the same kind of data you're getting on these forms manually and automate that process. And what this does is it gives you the ability to kind of triangulate, if you will, between a specification, a quality event, and a supplier, and then you can manage it, all together, so that anytime you're looking at a spec, you'll know if there was any type of quality event, whether a vendor had an issue, whether it passed or failed, whatever that may be. The same thing when you're looking at a supplier, so it makes it easy to start generating scorecards and keep metrics on that side. And it just makes it very easy for, as a quality group or even a receiving group or whatever that may be, a buying group, to go out and see, what's happening when, and have all these things being automated, rather than, kind of wondering, and it always comes up, especially with quality, is what happened last month with supplier X or last quarter, how many quality events did we have, et cetera. So this just makes this tremendously easy.
I think it's a great point, and something that in the food and beverage and chemical and other industries, we're even expanding beyond quality events just within packaging, but being able to log quality reports and complete corrective actions on actual products. So completing out the specification page, there's an area for logistics, approvals, and then any change that's made will be logged with a date and time stamp and who made that change. But I want to go a level up to the bill of materials. So you'll see here is a where used list. So this is all the finished goods or families or groupings that use this particular C200 shipper. I'll click into this apple blueberry granola, which is a sample finished good. You can see that you store the identification information, master pack details. If you want to put costing information, shipping, basically anything that is applicable to this particular finished good. And then you have the individual items that make up the bill of materials, so you can drill back down into that, as well as any files such as pallet patterns, shipping, or assembly instructions that are applicable to that particular finished good. And one of the key benefits that we've heard over and over again from Specright customers is the connectivity between items is superior to other systems. So the ability to link an individual component down to its raw materials, up to a finished good, out to a supplier, is all very logical and easy to complete. And those connections also enable you to run reports that we'll show in a minute. Touching on a few other areas of the system beyond the specifications, you can also manage supplier relationships within Specright. So you can store all the details that are applicable on a given supplier. You can list your contacts with that supplier and then give them access to come into the system, see a redacted view of the specifications that you want them to see. If you'd like a supplier to directly enter specification information or upload documents, they can do that as well. And then you automatically have a link to the items that supplier runs, as well as any QA records for audits that have been completed, and then attachments such as non-conformance reports or certificates of compliance that are specifically applicable to those suppliers. Adam, anything on the supplier piece?
I guess the only thing I would add in there is just throughout this whole thing, right, and especially on the supplier side and even on the spec side, and even the documents that you attach, right, a lot of things have expiration dates. So you can set up rules and alerts. So maybe you're dealing with suppliers and maybe 90 days before a contract expires, you want to send off a notification to, your buying team or the quality team or even your supplier that says, this contract or this document, whatever it may be, doesn't have to be a contract. Maybe it's, things like, ethics and things like this and documentation that they have to get approved every year. That way it just keeps all those things in sync and you're not always playing catch up. So you can just be ahead of those things. And that works for suppliers. It works for bill of materials, works for specs. We can put that functionality anywhere.
Makes a lot of sense. So I'm now going to jump over to our new interface, which is Salesforce Lightning, and we're beginning to transition some customers over to this newer Lightning interface, also offering it as a beta to new customers. But you'll see a few differences in the look and feel, and I'm first going to touch on the dashboards and reports in this area. Because you're storing the data inside of the Specright platform as opposed to in a static PDF or an Excel spreadsheet, you can run reports on any of those data points. So here's an aggregation of a handful of sample specification reports, but everything from status of given items to those that are missing specific data points or files. You can look at spend or usage by location. You get as granular as how much C-flute are you buying for a particular division, or how much PET or LDP usage is there for a particular brand. Once again, you can report on quality and then obviously the breakdown of type of packaging. Any of these reports you can click into to see all the information. You can toggle on graphs and charts as you want. And we'll tee up all of our customers with the most popular reports that are used. But you can also build these yourself or with your customer success representative. And it's as easy as dragging and dropping the fields that you want included in the report, and then adding any filters. So if you only want to see specific items, for example, those that are approved or those from a specific location, and then you can rerun the report. There are a number of different ways that customers use reports, everything from procurement groups gathering bid data to share out with suppliers, to putting together executive summaries or sustainability reports. Adam, anything to add on the reporting function?
Just a couple of things. So, also, I don't know if we'll go into dashboards or not, but you can also have, dashboards as an individual and as groups. So you can have, obviously quality cares about things that may be different than the packaging group does and or purchasing group. So each one of those can be customized, and those are essentially reports behind those. And then with that, one thing to note is the security model behind here makes everything secure, from an individual spec to a bill of material to access to any record. So if you say I extend access of my specs to my suppliers that are supplying them, you can even extend report access, but it's completely secure. So they will never even know the existence of something that you don't give them access to. So you could be buying 1,000 different products and your supplier supplies 5 of them. All they would ever see is those 5. So there's no risk. It's secure, and you're not going to have a data security or a data propagation problem.
I like it. I'm going to spend a minute or two here just touching on a couple of the advanced features, and then going to open it up for questions. I see that we have a couple coming in already. The first would be IQ, which is really a way to leverage the data that's already in the system and find potential optimization and cost savings. So we've started within corrugated, are expanding this quarter to flexible packaging. But what this will do is look at your specification data. If you have purchasing information in there, then it'll quantify an actual potential savings, and it'll look at those items that could potentially be migrated from white to kraft liner. It'll give you a description of what that change will do, and then how much savings you can get on each particular item. And as we've seen with current customers, this is opening excellent dialogue with suppliers on potential changes that will benefit both sides. We have one customer in the food and beverage space that spends about $25 million annually on their corrugated, and through IQ, we're able to identify over $2 million in potential annual savings. The last item, and then switching over to questions, is VX. So this is once again kind of a next level feature, being able to engage once you're inside of the system. So if you're moving to a new location or starting a new product line and you need a packaging supplier, this enables you to search for potential suppliers in that area. So it'll look within a given radius for all potential suppliers of that commodity. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to questions. As I said, just type them in the window on the right side if you have any questions. The first one, and you're probably best to answer this one, Adam Fugate, is what is a typical timeline, and can you kind of walk us through a standard onboarding and implementation?
Sure. So the typical bad answer is it depends. But generally, I mean, here's the beauty of Specright, is generally within a few months that we're well down the road. But the beauty of Specright is that, let's say, for example, you're buying 20 different packaging commodities. And let's say that we start with something relatively simple like corrugated. As soon as we start working and putting the corrugated records in there and getting your business processes in place, those records are available for your use. So it isn't like, a lot of systems where you have to wait until you get to these certain, massive milestones and it has to get rolled out. As soon as data is there, it's available for your use. So that makes it so we can move pretty rapidly. Typically installs, on the smaller side is a couple of months, 2 months, 2.5, sometimes a little longer depending on the complexity. But like I said, the beauty of it is we don't have to wait and get it all at one time. As we roll things out, they're ready for you and your team to use.
Thanks, Adam. The next question was actually not specifically about something we covered in the webinar, But somebody said they got the email about the user group we're having next week and wanted to know more about it. I'll actually pass it over to Matthew to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, just real briefly, next week we have our user group meeting in Austin. Certainly if there's any further questions, to reach out to Adam or myself about it. It's a great collection of people that have been clients for a while, some newer clients that are coming aboard, and then some that are considering coming aboard. It's going to be a sharing opportunity of some of the tools in the forward, or looking forward to some of the tools we have now, how companies are using the product to better their business, and then also we'll have speakers from FICA, Ventures, Cal Poly, and ISTA, the International Safe Transit Association, as projects we're all working on together. So we encourage anybody that does have interest in finding a value to reach out to us, and hopefully that answered the question.
Definitely. Thanks, Matthew. Adam Fugate, you're probably best for this one too. The question is, I'm a large food manufacturer, and you mentioned that you also support ingredient specification management. Can you elaborate?
Sure. So the beauty, I guess, of it as well is in our world, just to a high degree, a specification is a specification. So meaning that, really, certainly the way you use data for ingredients and things is different than you would packaging, but the same kind of principles apply. So whether it's in food ingredients and you're building up a formula and then that formula is going to be used in a finished product, or multiple formulas used in a finished product, the relationship is essentially the same. So in this case, instead of having a record here laid out for, this is a wine bomb or for corrugated or for whatever it may be, we would build the specifications around your ingredient specs, whether that's, butter, sugar, flour, different kinds of additives, whatever it may be, chemicals. Same kind of structure applies, and we put the same rules in place to make sure that the appropriate data is there for each one of those level specifications. We also have some logic that we can add in there to generate things for like allergen codes and technical flags. And then we can roll those up into formulas that can be managed as a group across many locations if need be, if you have a very large network of operations, and then that can be rolled up into a finished good, et cetera. So it's all managed in very similar ways, similar functionality. You can attach documents, you can manage your supplier documents, and make sure that everything is in place and exactly correct before it gets used. So it's with that, there's some logic behind. So if someone wanted to create a new product and they said, yeah, I'm going to roll this out and approve this new ice cream, and that spec for cream had not been approved yet, it would actually not let them do that. So we can build in some checks and balances so that you make sure that all the building blocks are in place before you create a final product and everything has gone through the appropriate channels. So it's a very similar process and very customizable. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good answer, and definitely anybody can feel free to follow up with us with further questions. One more came in asking, is this primarily a U.S. system, or can you support it in other countries? So we are U.S. based, but certainly can support usage in other countries. We have customers across Europe, in Sweden, as well as the United Kingdom. We have customers that have operations in Asia, South America, across the world. So definitely can support outside of the U.S., although we are headquartered here. With that, it looks like we have passed the time. Appreciate everybody joining the webinar and staying on the line. If you're curious about next steps or wanting to dig in further, please do reach out to adam@specright.com or hello@specright.com, and we can follow up with more information. Would be happy to offer up both a deep dive demo as well as a custom demonstration with your specifications in it. Thank you again for your time, and have an excellent day.
Thanks, everyone.